Hi, my name is Sean Ness. I'm the Director of Business Development for Institute for the Future. I've been with IFTF for 17 years now. So I've had a chance to meet a lot of fantastic people throughout the years and see a lot of the research that IFTF's put out through its Vantage and other offerings over the last couple of decades. I'm joined with Rod Falcon, who oversees the Vantage program. You want to say hi to everybody, Rod?
Hello, everyone. Glad you're all
Okay.
here.
I'm going to do a quick overview of IFTF and Vantage. Then I'm going to hand it off to Rod to go into a couple of the fantastic offerings that are within the Vantage offering. Then we're going to move into some light Q&A. We're going to stop formally at half past the hour and allow people to jump off who need to, and then we'll stick around as long as we have some decent numbers to continue on with the Q&A. But just wanted to take it, allow ourselves to share some information about Vantage for all of you. For those that don't yet have a full grasp of who IFTF is, we're a 53-year-old research organization established as a nonprofit. We're based in Northern California, but we have our tentacles all around the globe. I think that our biggest value is the longer term broad perspective that matches up with the shorter term internal perspective of organizations. So when you combine the thinking and research of our organization with other organizations, you get a nice holistic view of the future. We like to look at topics from all over the place, from technology to healthcare to food, etc. And today we're going to talk about IFTF Vantage, which is our formal syndicated research partnership where we connect with dozens of organizations around the world to help them get more in tune with future possibilities so that they can make more informed decisions across their ecosystem. Now, in 2021, we have a very focused research agenda. There are three main domain areas that we're going to look at. The earliest one is looking at climate positive organizations. So in May, I believe it's May 18th, we're going to have a convening that where we share the initial findings of that research question around helping organizations adapt to a destabilized climate and green economy. From there, through the rest of the year, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to look at best practices for future-ready organizations. This is ongoing research that began last year to help think of future-ready organizations. So we're going to continue down that path. And the third thing we're going to do is look at the new foundations of the operating environment. So think of what kind of organizations will exist in 10 years, what kind of technologies they'll have access to, and how will the basic foundations of the organization look like. So we're going to explore that in depth. Now with Vantage specifically, there's a number of things that we do. The four C's that we like to say that we offer are content, community, conferences, and coaching. We do this through our Vantage Point platform, which is our content webinar platform, through our Future Factors Signals platform. Rod's going to dive deep into those two domains for us. We also have an annual convening called the 10-year forecast that takes place in the fall. And finally, there is a human foresight guide who's sort of like your docent to the future, the person that is there with you along the ride as an IFTF Vantage partner. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Rod to dive deep into the next two areas, Vantage Point and Future Factors. And we'll start off with Vantage Point.
Great. So yeah, we have essentially an online platform that we call IFTF Vantage Point. A big part and value of IFTF Vantage is the foresight community of partners, networks of experts, and IFTF forecasters. And so this is a platform where you would find, you would get exclusive access to all of our research, the latest forecasts, all of the assets related to webinars, reports. Every year we issue a new map of the decade, which looks at the next 10 years. So all of those are there. You'd also find slide decks that you can repurpose for your own work. We also create a lot of artifacts from the future, which are really creative illustrations of future possibilities. Right now, things that you would find on there would be our most recent technology forecast. This past year, we created a playbook for future-ready organizations that really tries to look at and answer the question, where does strategic foresight fit in my organization? So that's Vantage Point, and we also use it as a platform for our virtual interactions and our conference. We're hoping very soon that we can go back to holding our conferences in person, but in the meantime, this is a place where a lot of our work is documented, and you have access to our library. So there's lots to dig in there. You can go on to the next slide. The other thing that you'll find actually connected right off of the Vantage Point platform is a related platform that we call IFTF Future Factors. Now, it turns out, the evidence that we all use when we're building forecasts are signals of change. These are observations, new technologies, new startups. They are early indicators of some change or future phenomena. And so we created this platform that allows us and the larger community to identify and collect and curate signals. And like I said, signals for us are the evidence, sort of the building blocks we use for forecast. And so if you were going to have a shared resource in a foresight community, this is it. This is where everyone is contributing ideas, trying to make sense of a variety of different signals. All of the signals are tagged, so it's easy to search, searching for climate and finance, for example, and then pulling out those signals for your own work. And then more recently, we also created what we're calling signal boards, and this allows you to create both public to everyone on the platform, or private only to your team, boards that you would create on a theme. So if you wanted to understand, again, climate and finance, you could just sort of sequester those signals and make them available privately only to your team. This is really helpful because it allows you to use the platform and the larger database for your own strategic foresight work. So those are two platforms. They're both kind of hubs of our community, and we certainly invite all of you to join the program.
If there are any questions after we close out of this, people can reach out to either Rod or myself with questions. Know that this presentation is being recorded, so you'll have access to it. We're going to email it to everybody after the fact, so you'll have all these slides as well. And then one quick thing before we move into Q&A and I close out the slides is we're going to have another webinar coming up in the same time frame. So for the people on the West Coast and in Asia, a little more convenient time. We're going to talk about Foresight Essentials on Tuesday, May 11th. That's Pacific time, so it would be Wednesday, May 12th for those in the Pacific in the morning. And then there's a training that's geared towards West Coast and Asian nations as well, coming up in July through August, provided by our IFTF Foresight Essentials team. So just wanted to share those two items with you. Those are time zone convenient for all the folks on the phone call. So without further ado, we'll just step out of the presentation. I'm going to end that, and we'll move into some Q&A. So this is a chance for anybody that wants to ask a question. You can put it into the chat, and Rod and I will answer those questions. So feel free to step up and ask a question. First question, wondering if your service of the signals database is something available to subscribe to. So I'll go first with the answer to that question. Currently the signals database, IFTF Future Factors, is only available to the partners within the IFTF Vantage offering. There's thinking that we might change that down the road, but we haven't gone past the thinking stage. So currently, if you'd like to access the database of signals, IFTF Future Factors, you would have to be a Vantage partner. Another question here's from Anna from South Korea. How do you make sense of signals? How do you get consensus among experts that specific signals may lead to disruptive changes in the industry and life? Rod, would you like to tackle that question?
Sure. I think in any particular area that you're investigating, trying to build a forecast area, there's beyond just sort of collecting signals, there's and this is something we teach in our Foresight Essentials courses, you really do need to think about who you're inviting to signal with you on a team or a project. So we're often selecting experts to join the team to signal with us. And that's one of the ways that we're getting sort of their deep expertise and observations, but also thinking more diverse participants. So one of the things that we would do on a project is make sure that we're collecting signals in a broad range of categories. So frequently we're using a heuristic like STEEP, which stands for social, technology, economic, environment, and policy. And by identifying signals within those categories, we're ensuring ourselves that we're looking at a broad range. Once you identify signals, I think you can use them. One of the things we do is try to understand possibilities at their intersection, both through related signals and unrelated signals. And once you have that, then you can take a list like that and get your feedback from experts and also make choices about which are the most relevant for your project.
And I would only add to that, Anna, around specific signals leading to disruptive change. So one signal by itself is probably not going to be disruptive, but when you start to see a pile-on of signals around a domain area, that's when you start to see some potential disruption. So think of a signal as a signpost of change tomorrow. When and if it scales in size or geographically or both, and when it begins to combine with other signals, that's when you start to see the disruptions, especially if you see signals that are technology in nature, business model in nature, legal and regulatory in nature, societal sentiment in nature. If you have a bevy of signals across the spectrum of tech, business model, legal, regulatory, social, that's when you're really going to start to see the disruption happening. If you only just see tech and you don't see the other ones, it may take a lot longer or it may not take off entirely. But you want to see a grouping and track it over time. If you continue to see pile-on signals, that's really useful.
I think the other thing is that you also develop a discipline of describing, your most relevant signals to a project by describing what it is, so what, and then the so what, which are the implications. Why does it even matter? Why are you calling my attention to it? And then a third layer can even be now what, which is what actions does this demand? What are implications for behaving, deciding differently? Lisa, who's asking us about, do we have materials available to the faculty? I think a lot of our materials are available on our website to the public. The IFTF Vantage program creates a map of the decade, which every year we're looking at the next 10 years on a theme. So some of those topics have been the future of trust, the future of changing power dynamics, for example, and a lot of these are available on our website. So you're welcome to use any of that. If there's something specific that you're interested in, you can just send me a note directly and we can talk more about it.
Next one is Carnegie asks about signals being crowdsourced from futurists around the world. Would they be location specific or industry specific? So think of the IFTF feature factors as a community of signals gathering, both IFTF researchers as well as IFTF partner personnel. It's much like Wikipedia. You have a database where people can go and add to the body of knowledge, or you can just lurk and read. So there's two different styles: is be a contributor, be a reader, or I guess three styles: contributor, a reader, or both. And we do have partners around the world that are contributing. So you do have a diversity of people participating from a wide range of industries. So all different locations and industries are being looked at in that database. And your colleague Widia asks, can signals be voted and shared upon? So one feature for the signals is an upvote feature. So if people feel that it's a good signal, they can vote it up. But people can also communicate or ask questions or build some kind of body of community around a specific signal. So there are comments that can be added. People can star them. You can also move a signal from one area to another into our boards feature. So if you're mining or monitoring a specific domain area where you've created a board, you can import one of the community signals into your board. Likewise, you can move a board signal out into the general community. Another question from Farhad. What presence does IFTF have in Singapore and or Asia? So we are a global research organization. We're based in Silicon Valley. Many of our clients come from around the world. Most of them are multinationals when you look at the corporations. So they have their footprints all over. I think Mitsubishi International has the widest footprint, that it's in 206 different nations, if memory serves me right. You know what? That might be the number of bones in the body. I think it's closer to 150 companies that Mitsubishi is, or countries that Mitsubishi is in around the world. But we have also ties to some Singapore universities, and we've done trainings within Singapore. I believe at National University of Singapore 2 or 3 years ago, we had a Foresight Essentials training at. Let's see, any other questions?
There's a question about games. Did you see that, Sean?
Oh, I didn't see that one. No, yeah.
About how effective games are in forecasting.
How effective are games in forecasting? Considering potential collaboration, what period of time should we keep in mind from the initial stage of planning to the result analysis? Rod, would it make sense to talk about the game that we did with UC Long Beach or UC Davis?
Yeah. Games can be effective in forecasting. We've actually created some platforms. Really the opportunity that social media and web platforms give us, it used to be that we could only involve 10, 15, 20 experts at a time in a workshop to build a forecast. Now with these platforms, that really leverage the gaming dynamics of competition and collaboration, you can create online experiences that involve thousands of people over 24 hours. Usually is how long, 24 to 48 hours is how long our games last. But the opportunity is, participatory, massive scale forecasting. And we did this on now at least 3 or 4 university campuses where we invite the entire campus community to participate in identifying signals, reacting to scenarios about the future of their university. I do think they're very relevant, especially thinking through gaming dynamics. We also create a lot of games that essentially use are different versions of decks of cards that ask you to take, for example, they're designed around different suits. So you can imagine a suit of technology, a suit of context like the home, car, mobile, and needs, and you mix these up, and it helps generate and provoke the imagination to generate new technology usages. So yeah, games are very relevant. I think we should let you know that we also have someone on staff that is a pioneer in leveraging games for forecasting, and Jane McGonigal. And if you're interested in more of that specific methods and approaches, we can certainly set up a communication with her.
Another question I see, thanks, Rod. Another question I see is around collaboration and community building with other partner organizations. Is it, how do other partner organizations connect with each other and learn from each other? So there's a few ways off the top of my head. One is we have ongoing webinars where we release content, and or we interview people within the Vantage community. Think of them as practitioners of foresight, where we're talking about just interviewing somebody about how do you use foresight in your organization? What are the techniques that you use? And then we open it up to Q&A and community building where people can start to meet and connect with one another. At our annual conference in the back in the day when you can meet face to face, obviously there were lots of ways of bringing people together socially, either at tables, at meals, at social events, etc. And we're learning best practices on how to do so virtually in breakout groups and other virtual social settings when we have the convenings in virtual. I expect by end of this year, definitely, most likely by next year, we'll be convening again face to face. So that ongoing collaboration across the community can continue to happen both physically and virtually.
Yeah. Another example would be our upcoming event for our partners, which is focused on how organizations can become climate positive. We're going to be featuring our new map of the decade, but even though that meeting will be virtual, our partners get to work together. So we're going to be actually building capacity on backcasting techniques. And so we're not just delivering content, we get our partners to actually practice through different methods and processes, and they do that with each other in collaboration.
And for those that aren't IFTF Vantage partners, we will have a special session on the morning of June 8th to give a little sneak peek at what our partners saw. So be on the lookout for that if you are a subscriber to our newsletter. Looks like we have another question about nonprofit and government partners. So we've worked with a lot of, Gates Foundation, Irvine Foundation, Lumina Foundation, the World Bank, NATO, a number of universities such as UC Davis, Cal State University, Long Beach,
Large
San Francisco State
nonprofits
University.
like American Heart Association, American Cancer Association. So yeah, a lot of different government and nonprofits and civic organizations.
Yeah, it's not just corporations. So you do get to see some organizations that have different kind of focus areas and diversity of interest just beyond what new products, services, and experiences should I create. How can an organization new to foresight make the most of future factors? I'll start. One is signals sort of are like the bread and butter of what foresight professionals use to populate and give color to a forecast or a future force or scenario. So using the Future Factors platform as a way to slowly bring people into the world of foresight is a fantastic medium. Everyone is reading and learning about new things. So just gathering people together on a monthly basis over a lunch, over a coffee, and having them bring in one new signal to the conversation that they feel is relevant to the team, to the department, to the organization, to the industry. It's up to the facilitator to decide the specific context, but using signals as a way to kind of bring people in and enjoy foresight to show the ridiculousness, the weirdness of long-term thinking is really useful. Once someone shares a signal and you see the consequences or the impact or the insights that fall from that, you'll see that people start to become a signals gatherer because it's just a natural thing. So that's one wonderful usage of the Future Factors platform.
We have a lot of partners that are returning partners year after year, but we always do have a cohort of absolutely new partners. And we do spend a lot of time onboarding them, getting them familiar with everything that's available so that, as you said, get the most value out of the partnership. I think for new members, we do have member meetups where we're actually going through our recent research on what does it mean to be a future-ready organization. And we're talking a lot about where does a foresight practice fit in the organization, how you can build a team, how do I graft future tools onto existing processes like strategic planning and so on. The other thing is we intentionally built in as part of the program a foresight guide. So, building a relationship with that person. I have a new partner that just joined that's an international food company, and they're just building their team. I met with the first hire of their foresight team, and they've now hired 4 people. And so every time there's a new person, we're onboarding them and making sure they're familiar what we offer. But joining, especially our 10-year forecast that will be coming up and getting to know and connecting with other partners. The community is full of insights about how to leverage the content, the processes, the tools to build these capacities inside your organization.
We're just about approaching half past the hour, so just want to be mindful of that for those that need to log off and go about other day-to-day activities. Excuse me. Are there any other questions that are coming in? I haven't seen a question in the last minute or so, so we might have responded to everybody that's asked one. If you do have a question, you feel free to put it into the chat or the Q&A. Okay, no more questions coming in. I think we can formally close the webinar. And again, as a reminder, this has been recorded. So all registrants, including the people who logged in today, thank you for doing so, will receive a copy of this. We've tracked all the questions, so don't be surprised if we reach out to you with added context. If you do have any additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to Rod in the chat. I'll put Rod's address and mine. If you have any additional questions, we'd be happy to keep a conversation going with you. So without further ado, we'll say goodbye to everybody.